The night sky above Earth was never meant to look like this. At first, people thought they were watching a meteor shower, streaks of light cutting across the black heavens. But then the streaks stopped moving. They hung in orbit, thousands of them, each one larger than a city, metallic and alive with alien lights. The world fell into silence as every screen, every satellite, every camera pointed upward. The alien fleet had arrived. For months there had been rumors, signals intercepted, warnings from deep space scientists who spoke of strange transmissions, but no one truly believed it would come to this. Now the proof was above their heads, blotting out the stars, filling the sky with the shapes of war. People ran into the streets to see it with their own eyes. In New York, in Cairo, in Karachi, in Tokyo, they looked upward in awe and terror. Some screamed, some cried, some prayed. Leaders rushed to underground bunkers, military forces scrambled. Fighter jets took to the air even though everyone knew they would be useless against ships the size of continents. The world stood on the edge of fear, waiting for what would happen next. Then a voice came. It was not a human voice. It was cold, metallic, echoing inside every device on Earth. The message was simple: surrender or be erased. The words struck like a knife through the hearts of billions. Governments tried to respond, but before they could agree on what to say, the alien armada began to move. Their warships shifted in perfect formation, lining up like hunters ready for the kill. On the ground, humanity braced for the first strike. Families held each other close. Soldiers gripped rifles that felt like toys against giants. Scientists screamed into radios demanding answers that did not exist. The world had never felt so powerless. They all knew Earth's weapons could not stand against such a fleet. It was like ants raising spears against a storm. Without warning, the first barrage came. From the orbiting ships, massive beams of light shot downward, weapons designed to burn continents and boil oceans. Entire skies lit up, turning night into day. Cities glowed under the reflection of that impossible fire. People closed their eyes and waited for death. The ground shook, the air grew hot, and for a single endless moment, humanity believed the world had ended. But then something strange happened. The beams did not strike. They vanished. The fire that should have consumed the land simply disappeared as though it had never existed. The world opened its eyes, confused and trembling. Buildings were untouched. The oceans were calm. Not a single city was burned. In orbit, the alien commanders looked at their displays in shock. Their weapons had fired, the power had been real, but the target was unharmed. They ordered the fleet to fire again, this time with more power. Another wave of deadly energy roared toward Earth. Again, the skies lit up, and again, the world braced for death, and again, nothing happened. The fire simply dissolved before reaching the surface, like smoke vanishing in the wind. Billions of humans looked upward with wide eyes, their fear now mixed with confusion. Soldiers lowered their weapons, unable to believe what they had just seen. Children laughed nervously, thinking maybe it was a trick. But the aliens were not laughing. The alien fleet's command ship sent urgent signals across its formation. Something was wrong. Something was stopping their attacks, but no sensors could detect it. Their scanners reached deep into the atmosphere, but there was nothing there. No shield, no barrier. There's no human technology capable of such a feat. It was impossible, and yet it was happening before their eyes. The admiral of the alien fleet growled in frustration. His people, the Veiled Dominion, had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had burned civilizations far greater than this primitive planet. Never before had their weapons failed. Never before had their enemies stood untouched. Yet Earth refused to fall. On the ground, panic turned into whispers. What was happening? Scientists tried to explain, but none of them could. Theories spread wildly. Some said it was a malfunction in the alien guns. Others said it was divine protection, and some said Earth itself was fighting back. In secret bunkers, military generals argued about what to do. Should they attack? Should they wait? Should they try to talk? No answer seemed right. The entire planet was caught in the grip of a mystery they could not solve. All they could do was watch the sky And pray, the miracle continued. Above them, the alien fleet unleashed another strike. This one larger than the last. A massive cannon from the flagship roared with power, enough to split the planet in two. The blast descended like the hammer of a god. It should have ended everything. But as it touched the upper atmosphere, the energy rippled, shimmered, and then gone. Not even smoke remained. The Earth did not break. It did not burn, simply rejected the attack, silent and calm, as if swatting away an insect. The aliens screamed in rage, their perfect record of conquest breaking apart in front. Of them, they had expected an easy victory. Instead, they faced something they could not understand. Humanity felt a strange new sensation rising inside them. Hope, for the first time since the arrival of the fleet. They dared to breathe. They dared to imagine that survival was possible. Crowds in the streets began to cheer, not in triumph but in desperate relief. Soldiers stood taller. Leaders who had hidden underground now dared to look at the sky again. The aliens had promised to erase them, but the Earth itself seemed to whisper back, "Not today." And somewhere deep inside the planet, in places no human had ever seen, something ancient stirred. The alien fleet did not retreat. They were confused, angry, and insulted. The Veiled Dominion had never failed in battle. They destroyed entire empires across the stars, and yet this small blue planet resisted without lifting a weapon. Admiral of the fleet ordered another wave of fire. Every ship in orbit unleashed its weapons at once. The sky above Earth burned brighter than the sun, rivers of destruction pouring downward, enough to reduce the surface to ash. Humanity once again closed their eyes, waiting for the end. But when they opened them, there was nothing. The fire vanished before touching the ground, erased by an invisible force. Earth was untouched, silent, and unbroken. In command rooms across the planet, human leaders stared at their screens in disbelief. They saw impossible data, energy readings that should not exist. The weapons of the aliens simply dissolved, as if swallowed by something no one could measure. Scientists screamed into radios, demanding calculations, searching for answers. But every test returned the same. No human shield, no human weapon, no human interference. It was something else, something unknown. And yet it was protecting Earth, with perfect precision, in the deep ocean. Far below the surface, where no human had ever walked, something ancient was stirring. Hidden beneath layers of rock and water, an enormous structure slowly came alive. It did not shine with lights or move with sound. It pulsed like the heartbeat of a planet. It was not human technology. It was older, far older, built long before humanity learned to walk. The oceans trembled as strange energy spread through the water, rising upward into the atmosphere, invisible to human eyes but deadly to alien weapons. The world itself seemed to breathe. The aliens scanned harder, sending waves of detection across Earth's surface. They searched for cities, for hidden cannons, for orbiting satellites that could explain the mystery. They found nothing. Their computers reported no defense system, no shield, no sign of human resistance. The admiral of the fleet slammed his clawed fist against the command table. His people had never faced such humiliation. His voice roared across the fleet, ordering a shift in tactics. "If the sky rejects our fire, then we will land. We will crush them hand to hand." The order echoed, and the alien ships began to prepare drop vessels filled with troops. On Earth, people watched, in terror, as thousands of dark shapes broke away from the fleet. They were drop pods, weapons meant to deliver soldiers directly onto the ground. The military braced for invasion. Tanks rolled into city streets, jets scrambled, and sirens wailed across nations. For all their fear, humans were ready to fight, with whatever they had, but the invaders never reached them. As the pods entered the atmosphere, something unseen tore through them. They burned, they melted. One by one, they vanished in bursts of fire, turning to dust before reaching the surface. Not a single alien soldier landed alive. People stood frozen as they watched the sky rain with ashes. Did not understand it, but the result was clear. Earth itself refused to let the aliens touch it. Soldiers who had been ready to die stood, stunned, their weapons unused. Civilians who had hidden underground peeked out in confusion, realizing no invasion had come. Strange silence fell across the world. The aliens had tried again and again, but nothing worked. And deep inside the oceans, the ancient pulse grew stronger. Scientists and underground facilities detected waves of energy moving through the crust of the Earth. They had never seen anything like it. The patterns were not random. They were organized, mathematical, like signals. Some scientists believed it was a weapon. Others whispered it was a warning. But none of them dared say it out loud, the terrifying thought that maybe Earth was not only alive, but aware. Something beneath their feet was watching, and it had decided to defend them. The alien fleet grew desperate. They had never faced a world they could not conquer. Some commanders urged retreat, but the admiral refused. The Veiled Dominion was feared across the galaxy. If they failed here, their reputation would collapse. They could not let this primitive world defy them. They prepared their most powerful weapon, one that had shattered moons and cracked planets. It was a weapon that no civilization had survived before. The admiral promised his fleet that this time Earth would break. On Earth, billions of people felt the fear return. They saw the largest alien ship move into position, its energy building like a second sun. The skies glowed red, shadows stretched across cities, and even the oceans reflected the terrible light. For a moment, humanity thought this was the end. But the pulse beneath the oceans grew louder. Somewhere in the darkness below, titanic mechanisms turned, unseen guardians woke, and the sea itself vibrated with ancient power. The weapon fired, a beam that screamed through space, aimed at the heart of the planet. But as it struck the atmosphere, the pulse answered. The beam shattered into nothingness, scattered like dust in the wind. The admiral's most powerful weapon had failed. Humans all over the world gasped, cried, and shouted. For the first time, people began to cheer. They did not know what saved them, but they knew they were still alive. Soldiers raised their fists to the sky. Families embraced in tears. Some dropped to their knees and thanked the heavens. But in the shadows of their joy was something else, an unshakable question. What was protecting them? Who had built it? Why did it wake now? Above them, the alien fleet trembled with uncertainty. They could not understand what force had denied them. Their empire had faced powerful enemies before, but never something invisible and untouchable. The admiral stared at Earth in silence, his pride bleeding into fear. Something about this planet was wrong. Something about it was forbidden. And for the first time in his long life of conquest, he began to wonder if the Dominion had made a terrible mistake. The alien fleet still covered the skies like a metal storm. Their warships glowed with cruel light, but none dared fire again. The weapons of the Veiled Dominion had failed too many times. Their commanders shouted across channels, trying to make sense of the impossible. On Earth, billions of people did the same, staring upward, hearts pounding. Cities that should have been turned to glass were still alive. Oceans that should have boiled remained calm. Humanity had survived the first strikes, and now the whole world could not look away. Every rooftop, every balcony, every open field was filled with people watching the sky. Could not fight the aliens, but they could bear witness to whatever happened next. In New Delhi, a little girl pointed upward and laughed, saying the fire had bounced away. In Los Angeles, soldiers sat on top of their tanks, staring at the heavens, as if waiting for another miracle. In Paris, church bells rang on their own, calling the faithful to pray. In Moscow, leaders spoke into hidden bunkers, trying to tell their people to stay calm, though their own voices shook with fear. All over Earth, humans were united not by their governments, not by their armies, but by the single truth that something impossible was protecting them. In the alien flagship, silence had turned heavy. The admiral's eyes burned with anger, but beneath the anger there was unease. He demanded new scans of the planet, every frequency, every spectrum. His scientists obeyed, but the results returned nothing useful. The energy signature that blocked their weapons did not come from human cities or machines. It came from Earth itself, rising from deep beneath the crust. That knowledge unsettled even the most loyal officers. They had seen many strange defenses in their campaigns, but nothing like this. One whispered that the planet was cursed. Another muttered that they should not have come here. The admiral silenced them with a glare, but doubt was spreading like poison. On the ground, news networks broadcast the alien failure in real time. Around the world, people shouted in disbelief and joy. For the first time in human history, the entire species was watching the same battle, breathing the same fear, sharing the same hope. Crowds gathered around giant screens in city squares. Old radios crackled with updates. Children asked their parents why the aliens could not hurt them. Parents had no answers, only silence and trembling hands. Humanity had always felt small under the stars. But in this moment, they began to feel something new: defiance. The aliens noticed it too. Their intelligence officers reported strange transmissions rising from Earth. Humans were not panicking anymore. They were encouraging each other, spreading hope, daring to believe they could survive. That terrified the Dominion more than any weapon. Fear had always been their greatest tool. They ruled the galaxy by breaking spirits before breaking bones, but Earth's spirit was rising instead of falling. The admiral snarled and ordered the fleet to unleash psychological warfare. They broadcast new messages into every human device. Threats of pain and eternal slavery, promises that resistance was useless. But the words had lost their power. People still shook with fear, but they did not bow. They watched the skies with stubborn eyes, waiting to see what would happen next. A young boy in Rio de Janeiro raised his fist toward the heavens, and the crowd around him copied him. In Warsaw, a group of soldiers climbed onto the roof of a building and sang their anthem at the top of their lungs. In Nairobi, people danced in the streets, shouting that the aliens could do nothing. Fear still lingered, but it mixed with pride. And pride was something the Veiled Dominion had never learned how to crush. The more the aliens failed, the stronger humanity felt. The whole planet had become a theater, and everyone was watching the enemy's frustration. The admiral finally gave a new order. If the planet's shield could not be broken by weapons or troops, then they would test its limits with power never before unleashed on a living world. He commanded the fleet to gather their energy into a unified strike. Dozens of ships aligned in formation, their cores glowing like suns. Even in the middle of the day, the light turned the sky white. Humans looked upward, breathless, as the aliens prepared to burn the very air from their lungs. The admiral swore this would be the end, that Earth would not defy him again. The strike began. Before, the ground quaked as the air screamed with heat. Birds fell from the skies, animals fled in terror, and oceans foamed with rising steam. People screamed, believing the shield had finally failed. But as the energy reached the atmosphere, the invisible force stirred once more. The fire broke apart, scattering like dust on the wind. The massive attack, powerful enough to destroy. A starship simply vanished. When the light cleared, Earth was still there, calm and untouched, as if mocking the invaders. For the first time, the Veil fleet fell into silence. No one shouted, no one gave orders. Even the admiral's voice failed. They had used their greatest power and achieved nothing. In their minds, a thought grew, heavy and dangerous. What if Earth could not be conquered at all? What if this planet was forbidden? The thought spread like a disease through the crew. Fear began to eat at their confidence, a fear greater than the humans ever felt. It's unlike the humans. The Veiled Dominion understood the universe's secrets. They remembered the warnings carved into old ruins on other worlds, messages left by civilizations that had vanished. One of those warnings had spoken of a world not to be touched, a world protected, a world that punished those who tried. The name of that world was Earth. On the ground, humanity could not hear those warnings. They only saw what was before them. The most powerful fleet in the galaxy had tried everything and failed. For the first time, humans began to believe not just in survival, but in victory. They lifted their eyes to the sky, not in fear, but in challenge. The world was no longer a victim. Something was protecting them, something the aliens could not overcome. And though no human could explain it, deep inside, they felt a truth rising. like fire in their blood. Earth was not weak. Earth was not helpless. Earth was waiting. The alien fleet floated above Earth like a shadow that refused to leave. Their ships still blazed with cruel light, but none dared fire again. Every attempt had failed. Every weapon had vanished before touching the surface. The veiled Dominion, feared across galaxies, stood helpless over a planet that should have been an easy conquest. Inside their flagship, the Admiral's fury boiled. He could not accept defeat. His empire would never forgive him if he returned. Empty-handed, his claws dug into the metal of the command chair as he gave the next order. If weapons could not touch the humans from orbit, then soldiers would do it by force. They would send down an army to crush the people with their own hands. Thousands of dropships detached from the fleet, black arrows streaking through the sky. On Earth, sirens screamed again. Militaries scrambled, tanks rolled into position. Fighter jets roared upward, and soldiers braced for combat. Civilians ran for shelter, hearts pounding, knowing that this time no shield could protect them from physical troops. Fear returned like a storm. Yet when the first dropships entered the atmosphere, something strange happened. Flames licked. Across their hulls and their engines screamed in agony. Then one by one the ships disintegrated. From the ground it looked like meteors burning up on entry, trails of fire vanishing into ash. Not a single vessel made it through. The sky rained nothing but dust. Crowds stood frozen, staring upward in disbelief. They had been seconds from despair, seconds from preparing for battle in the streets, but the invasion never came. Soldiers lowered their weapons slowly, stunned. Families who had hidden underground stepped outside and saw ashes falling like snow. The aliens had failed again. Humanity could not understand how or why, but the truth was undeniable. Earth itself refused to let the enemy land. Something powerful and unseen had chosen to deny them entry. Across the planet, whispers turned into shouts of joy. People cheered in city squares. Some fell to their knees in tears. Others looked to the oceans and the mountains with new reverence, as if the planet itself had risen to protect them. In the deep waters of the Pacific, the unseen guardians stirred again. Energy pulsed through the oceans, invisible but immense. Seismographs across the world recorded strange vibrations rising from the Earth's core. Patterns formed in the data, too perfect to be random. Some scientists whispered that they looked like language, like signals, as if something was speaking. To whom, no one knew. Satellites captured strange flickers of light beneath the waves. Enormous and fleeting, like shadows of titanic machines moving in the dark. No human technology could explain it. No human history spoke of it. Yet it was there, alive and watching. The alien fleet panicked. Commanders shouted over one another, demanding explanations. Their scans showed nothing but rock, water, and primitive cities. No sign of weapons. No sign of technology. And yet every attempt to invade ended in disaster. Some of the younger officers whispered the word no one dared to say aloud, cursed. The Admiral silenced them, but even he felt the weight of dread pressing against his pride. He had conquered 100 worlds. He had burned civilizations greater than this. Yet this small blue planet defied him without firing a shot. It was humiliation, and worse, it was terror. For the first time in his life, he felt the icy breath of doubt. The humans on the ground did not see the fear inside the alien fleet. They only saw that the invaders could not reach them. Hope grew stronger, burning inside every heart. In Brazil, people danced in the streets. In Canada, crowds sang in unison. In Africa, drums beat through the night as communities celebrated survival. Fear had not vanished, but it no longer controlled them. They began to see themselves not as victims waiting to die, but as survivors watching their enemy fail again and again. Across the world, the idea spread like wildfire. Maybe they could win. The Admiral refused to retreat. His pride was too great. His empire, too merciless. If word spread that the veiled Dominion had been defeated by Earth, their reputation would crumble. He had to destroy this planet or die trying. He gathered his officers and declared the next stage of the assault. would use a forbidden weapon, one never before unleashed on a living world. His officers trembled, but they obeyed. Deep within the fleet, massive reactors roared to life, drawing energy that burned brighter than stars. The weapon was not meant to conquer. It was meant to erase. The Admiral swore the planet would not withstand this. On Earth, scientists detected the rising energy in orbit. Their instruments shook with impossible readings, scales breaking under the force. They knew something worse was coming, something far greater than the attacks before. Leaders shouted into microphones, telling people to take shelter, though they knew it would not matter. Fear swept across the globe again, heavier than before. Families clung to each other. Soldiers saluted their flags, preparing for the end. People lifted their eyes to the sky, some in prayer, some in anger, some in silence. The alien fleet was about to unleash destruction beyond imagination. The weapon fired. Single beam, larger than any city, screamed downward. The air tore apart. The oceans boiled. Clouds vaporized. From the ground, it looked like the heavens themselves had opened in fury. Humanity cried out, believing this was the final blow. But as the beam struck the atmosphere, the deep pulse of Earth answered. The oceans glowed for a moment, as though lightning flashed beneath the waves. A ripple of invisible force spread across the skies. The beam shattered like glass, broken into fragments of harmless light that scattered into the void. The Earth stood untouched once more. Silence fell across the world. Not silence of fear, but silence of awe. Billions of people stared upward, their eyes wide, their mouths open, unable to believe what they had seen. The most powerful weapon of the Dominion had failed. Soldiers dropped to their knees, overwhelmed by the miracle. Families sobbed in joy. Strangers embraced in the streets. Humanity was no longer only surviving, they were witnessing the enemy's downfall. And deep inside the alien fleet, the first cracks of despair split their pride. For the first time in history, the Veiled Dominion had found a world they could not conquer. In the shadows of their fear, a question spread among the aliens. What was Earth? Why was it untouchable? And most terrifying of all, what would happen if whatever protected it decided to strike back? The alien fleet hovered in silence. Their weapons had failed, their soldiers had burned away, and even their greatest strike had been erased like dust. The Admiral of the Veiled Dominion sat rigid in his command chair, claws trembling with rage. His officers avoided his gaze, fear spreading through the flagship like a sickness. They had seen the impossible too many times. This was no ordinary world. Something ancient was alive beneath the surface, and it was not letting them touch the humans. The Admiral shouted for more scans, deeper and stronger, tearing through the planet with every frequency. At first, the reports came back empty again, but then one signal appeared. It was faint but steady, pulsing from far below the crust. Not natural, not human, artificial. The scientists of the fleet grew pale as they studied it. The signal was not random. It was structured, mathematical, a pattern so precise it could only be a message. Some argued it was a machine speaking. Others whispered it was a warning. The Admiral demanded a translation, but the scientists shook their heads. The language was too old, too complex. It was like trying to read the words of gods. The only thing they could say with certainty was that the message had been repeating for millions of years, waiting for someone foolish enough to attack Earth. The ground humanity did not know the details, but they felt the truth in their bones. Strange lights began to flicker across the oceans at night, stretching like veins of fire deep beneath the waves. Satellites caught glimpses of shadows moving under the water, larger than mountains, shapes too massive to comprehend. Fishermen near the coasts reported hearing deep sounds like drums beating from the abyss. The world trembled as if the planet itself was alive, as if it was slowly waking from a long sleep. Fear returned, not of the aliens, but of the unknown thing beneath them. If it could destroy alien weapons so easily, what else could it do? The aliens, desperate to understand, searched their archives. They dug through forgotten ruins of old conquests, scanning carvings and tablets stolen from dead civilizations. At last they found fragments of a warning. It spoke of a world left untouched by the builders of the stars, a world marked as forbidden. The message was always the same: do not approach, do not strike, do not awaken what sleeps there. Veil. Dominion had ignored that warning, and now they understood too late. Earth was not unprotected. Earth was a fortress. Someone or something had built it to be untouchable. And now that hidden power was awake. The admiral tried to silence the fear, but whispers spread quickly among the fleet. Crews looked at their instruments with shaking hands. Some asked to retreat. Some even prayed in their alien tongues, begging forgiveness for touching the cursed planet. The admiral roared that they were warriors, not children, but even his own voice cracked with unease. He could feel the truth pressing against his pride. He had not come to defeat humans. He had come to challenge a power far beyond him. On Earth, the people gathered in awe as a sudden light burst upward from the oceans. It was not fire, not electricity, but pure energy, rising into the sky like a pillar. It touched the clouds and spread across the heavens in silent brilliance. Humanity watched in silence, hearts racing. The light was beautiful, but it was also terrifying. Some thought it was salvation, others thought it was doom. No one could look away. Even the aliens stared, their instruments screaming warnings they could not understand. Then the impossible happened. A beam of energy shot from Earth's surface, faster than thought, straight into the alien mothership. The flagship of the Dominion, the pride of their empire, was split in two before anyone could react. One moment it floated above the planet, like a god, and the next it was gone, erased in a white flash. Half of the alien fleet collapsed into chaos, their formation breaking, their voices screaming in panic. They had never seen their command destroyed so quickly. The admiral, along with thousands of officers, was simply gone. On the ground, humans erupted into cheers and cries. They had not fired a single weapon, yet their greatest enemy was falling. People embraced strangers, soldiers wept openly, and children pointed to the skies with wonder. They could not explain it, but they knew something magnificent was on their side. Earth had struck back, and the universe itself would remember that moment. The fear that had ruled humanity since the fleet arrived now burned away, replaced by fierce hope. If Earth could destroy one ship, it could destroy them all. The surviving alien commanders screamed at their fleets to regroup. Their ships tried to flee into higher orbit, away from the planet's reach, but the pulse of the Earth followed them. Another surge rose from the oceans, faster and brighter than before. Whole squadrons vanished, erased by light that cut through, their shields as if they were paper. The sky became a graveyard of burning fragments, silent wrecks falling into the void. The Dominion's mighty fleet was being unmade before the eyes of billions. For the first time in history, humanity did not look at the stars with fear, but with power. They saw the aliens die, not by their hands, but by the will of their own world. It was a revelation, both beautiful and terrifying. Earth was more than just a planet. It was a guardian, a sentinel that had waited patiently for the day it would be needed. And now it had awoken to protect its children. The remaining alien ships hesitated on the edge of the atmosphere, trapped between retreat and annihilation. Their crews were no longer warriors. They were survivors begging for escape, but the Guardian of Earth did not forgive. It had been silent for millions of years, and now it was awake, and it was merciless. Humanity stood together and watched. As their enemy faced the truth, the universe had rules, and one of those rules was simple. Do not strike Earth. The sky above Earth burned with wreckage. Alien ships, once so powerful and proud, now fell apart like broken toys. Flames streaked across the heavens as debris rained into the void. The humans below watched in silence, their hearts racing. The first time, they were not staring at an unbeatable enemy. They were staring at the death of the most feared empire in the galaxy. The Veiled Dominion had come with promises of conquest, but now their mighty fleet was collapsing under a force no one could stop. Earth had shown its strength, and there would be no mercy. The surviving alien ships tried to retreat, engines screaming as they pushed away from the cursed world. Their commanders shouted desperate orders, begging their crews to escape before. The Guardians struck again, but the ocean pulse rose once more. Great arcs of energy erupted from the planet, invisible to human eyes but deadly to alien machines. One by one, the fleeing vessels caught fire, their hulls splitting open, their lights dying. They had come to erase a world, and now they were being erased instead. Panic spread through the Dominion soldiers, a fear deeper than any they had ever felt. They were not fighting an enemy. They were facing judgment. On Earth, humanity cheered, but their cheers carried a trembling edge. They did not know what the Guardian truly was. Some called it a weapon built by forgotten gods. Others said it was the spirit of the planet itself, awakened to protect its children. Whatever it was not gentle. It had destroyed the enemy without hesitation, without warning, without mercy. That truth sent shivers down human spines even as they celebrated. They had been saved, yes. They had also witnessed the power of something that was far beyond their control. The alien fleet grew smaller by the minute. Every attempt to regroup ended in failure. Ships exploded, dissolved, or vanished into light before they could even fire back. The space around Earth became a graveyard of burning fragments. The Dominion, once so arrogant, was nothing more than scattered wrecks drifting silently in orbit. In the flagship ruins, no command remained. Their empire's pride had been shattered. In a single night, and yet the Guardian was not finished. Deep in the oceans, the ancient structure pulsed again, brighter and stronger. Across the planet, humans felt the vibrations under their feet. Glass rattled in windows, oceans rose in sudden waves, and animals fled in terror. Then the pulse leapt upward once more, reaching into space with unstoppable force. The last surviving ships tried to flee into hyperspace, their engines tearing at reality itself. But before they could escape, light wrapped around them. Whole fleets disappeared in a single heartbeat, erased as if they had never existed. Not even wreckage remained. The Guardian did not allow survivors. From one end of the world to the other, people shouted, cried, and embraced. The threat was over. The fleet was gone. Humanity was alive. In city squares, strangers hugged. In fields, farmers dropped to their knees in thanks. In barracks, soldiers wept with relief. The nightmare had ended, but the memory of it would never fade. They had faced extinction, and instead they had witnessed the impossible. Earth itself had risen to protect them. They were not just survivors now. They were witnesses to something greater than history. High above the world, the skies cleared. No more alien weapons, no more looming shadows. Only the stars remained, bright and eternal. But the message was clear. Earth was no longer just another planet. It was a warning to the galaxy. Anyone who dared strike it would meet the same fate. The Dominion had thought themselves unstoppable. They were wrong. They thought Earth was weak. They were wrong. And their ashes would carry that lesson into the stars. In hidden bunkers, human leaders argued. Some wanted to study the Guardian, to learn its secrets. Others warned against it, saying such power was not meant to be touched. Scientists debated endlessly, staring at data they could not explain, while soldiers asked a simpler question. If Earth could do this to the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, then what would it do to humanity if they angered it? The fear of the Guardian lingered in every mind. It had saved them, yes, but it had also shown no hesitation in destroying their enemies. Its mercy did not exist. For the ordinary people, the fear mattered less than the hope. They had been seconds from annihilation, yet now they were alive. Families returned to their homes. Children slept under safe skies. Cities lit up in celebration. Across the world, humans lifted their heads higher, no longer ashamed of being small under the stars. They were the children of a planet that no empire could conquer. The galaxy would learn their name, and it would tremble, far away, beyond Earth's. Sky's messages spread, survivors from the Dominion's outer fleets. Those who had not joined the assault received the news. They could not believe it at first, but soon, reports from spies and scattered transmissions confirmed the truth. The Dominion's greatest fleet had been destroyed in a single battle. Whispers spread through conquered worlds. Rebellions stirred. In the shadows, The legend of Earth began to grow. A world untouchable. A world protected. A world where even the strongest empire fell. In the deep ocean, the Guardian grew quiet once more. Its light dimmed, its pulse slowed, sinking back into silence. Ack! It had done its duty. It had answered the challenge. Now it would wait again, until the next time Earth was threatened. Humanity celebrated, unaware that their protector had only just begun to awaken. Stars would never look at Earth the same way again. The universe had learned a simple truth, a truth written in fire and blood across the night sky. Earth was not prey. Earth was not weak. Earth was untouchable. And for those who dared to strike it, there would be no more mercy.